Hi, Nicholas here. Today we're starting a new series on composition, and we're going to go through we're going to start from the very basics, and we're going to develop new compositions and learn new tricks. And the first thing we're going to do is learn how to improvise, because composition is just improvisation that we've written down. Once you learn, you know how to improvise, and we're going to start slowly. We're going to go in the key of C, and as we progress through this series, we'll add more and more keys coming in. And in the second, so today we're just going to learn the basics of how we improvise. And in the next composition lesson, we're going to learn about the song skeleton, creating a structure of a song to give us the direction of the song, and then we fill in details. So let's start. So we're going to create a list of constraints. Now, the reason we have constraints is that it focuses your learning, and it doesn't give you too many options. When you have too many options, you're spreading yourself too wide, and it takes longer to learn things. So when you can give yourself a constraint, you can focus down on what you're doing, and you'll learn things much faster. So we've got 4 constraints we're going to start with. So we're not going to concentrate too much on the chords we're going to be creating. We will work with chords, but I'll show you as we progress. I'll show you what that means. We're not going to be trying to make, say, chord inversions. So we're basically going to let it flow. We're going to sort of let our mind flow. We're going to know what notes to hit, but we're just going to let it flow, because we're going to be using our ears to listen to what we're doing. Right? So we'll be working around chords, but you don't want to concentrate too much on the chord, right? On what you're trying to make. As you try it yourself, and I really suggest that at some stage you get yourself a keyboard if you don't already have one. Just try these exercises from this video, and you'll see what I mean as this progresses. Now, don't change chords too quickly, because we don't want to just start mucking around and not realizing what we're doing. We want to learn too what we're doing, so we can reproduce it again and again and again when we're creating new compositions. Right? And we're just going to stick to notes of the chord, right? So we're not going to play notes outside the actual chord in this constraint, right? What we will do, we're going to visualize a chord, and we're going to just start with 2 chords at a time. And we're going to be going from one chord to the next chord and one chord to the next. And we're just going to introduce them in pairs. And we're going to experiment with what we can do with our limited constraints of what we can do with those constraints. And one thing we can do is, if we make a chord, I'll show you in the next bit, all right, you can lift off notes, bass notes. And when you lift off bass notes, and we'll be killing a couple birds with one stone here. When you lift off bass notes, you create a slash chord, and you've got now a different chord. Even though it's a C chord, right? You've got now the sense of a new chord being created, and I'll show you what I mean as we go on. You'll see what it means. Okay, let's start now. So, of course, we're going to be in the key of C. Right? So that's going to be where we start, because it's always the easiest, just the white notes, right? So we're going to start with C major 7. So the first thing we want to do is locate and visualize the notes of C major 7. Now, we're not going to concentrate today on fingers, trying to get fingers right. Your fingers will flow, and you'll try to find the best position for your fingers, okay? But our starting point is going to be, have a look at all these notes, right? Now, it's just a simple pattern here. So it's stacked thirds, right? So we've learnt from previous lesson that a chord is stacked thirds. So we're just skipping it, every note. But what I want you to do is look down, and what we want to do now is memorize these notes. There's 4 notes we're pressing, right? So we got the C, which is the 1, right? And we will be talking about intervals too, right? Because that's the whole method of our of our system is intervals. So we got a 1, 3, 5, 7, right? Remember the Western major scales 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Right. So they're the notes. But what I want you to do is also visualize the notes. So at this stage, if you're not too familiar with intervals and you've just come into this video, well, what you can do first is visualize those notes, what you're pressing, right? Even if this is your first lesson or you first come in here, I advise to go watch some others of mine, but you can still do this exercise, right? You can still do it. Because what you're doing, you're focusing on these notes. Now I want you just to hold down. Now I want you to start just doing a roll. So start with the left hand, go slowly. And then, so there's no pedal at the moment. Now you can put down the pedal. And then you can press them all together, right? And you can see the notes. Can you see between B and E how they're close together? So, right, so we've got this gap here, right? So we find the two black notes here, right? There's the two black notes. So visualize a pattern. We're pressing these two notes between. So the left of the two, but so the C's, right? We're pressing B as well. So that's one thing you can remember. You can remember we're pressing B and C. Now what I want you to do is I want you to look up and down the keyboard and we're just going to hold the chord here. So we're starting now to learn how to improvise. So we're going to hold down this chord. Now we're just going to roll on it, right? And then the concept is to focus on the note you're going to hit before you hit it. So we're going to start to move up. Now the first things we can do before we start to move, right, is start to just lift off notes and have a listen. So the pinky on the left here, we're going to lift it off and then we're going to roll from the E. And we're just going to listen to that. And then we're going to lift off the E, okay? And then we're going to roll from the G, right? And then we're going to lift off the G and roll from the B. Okay? So we have a low 7 interval. We've got 1, 3, 5, 7. So we've got the low 7. Then we're going to put the G back, right? Which is the 5. So it's the low 5, right? So we're creating slash chords. We call these slash chords, which is a slash chord's just a chord that doesn't have the root as the bass note. It has a different note as the bass note, right? So the root of the chord is what the chord's founded on. So we have C in this case, and it's a character. We call this a major 7th character. So we're just looking at C major 7 right now, okay? That's all we're on. Now, what we're going to do, we've started lifting off fingers, right? And then we're bringing this on the left hand. We're creating slash chords for the left hand. Now, you can lift off fingers on the right, but we can lift off the high 7. So we can roll up and we can stop on the 5, right? We can roll up and stop on the 3. And what we're doing here was actually we're listening for the sound of what a high 3rd sounds like, what a high 5, what a high 7 sounds like, right? So we're just listening. We're using our ears to hear what we're doing here. And we're just rolling and we're taking our time. Now, so there's a lot of things you can do with your hands not even moving from this position. You can just lift off fingers and you can create a multitude of different sounds by not even moving your hands, just lifting off fingers, right? So once you place, there's that finger position. Have a look at my fingers, right? So I've got in the right hand, I've got the thumb, I've got the index on the 3, thumb on 1. I've got the middle on 5. So I've done that spread we did when we were looking at, remember the 5th rule, right? We were doing the 5th and then we're spreading to get to the high 1. All these courses I have, they're all progressive structured courses. So when you learn one, when you go back and learn a lesson, a video, that video you learn is going to help you on another video, on a higher up video, right? So a lot of that stuff, if you've watched some of my other videos, that's going to really help you here. But I'm trying to design a lot of these videos, like this one here, that even if you've come in here fresh, you can still do things, right? right? That you're not sort of lost completely and you can do things, especially with the composition ones. Some of my videos do get a bit complex, but again, you just start from lesson 1, lesson 2, lesson 3 and move your way up. But so we've got here, right, 7. Now the first thing we can do is lift up our little pinky and go to that 1 and bring it back to the 7. Now, and what we do, we look down and we focus of where we want to go first. So I'm looking at that high C. And then I'm going to look down and say, where else can we go? What we want to do is scan the keyboard up and down and look for all the notes we're playing. Right? We're going to have them in our conscious, right? In our mind, looking for them. And we're just going to go to them. And we're just going to try to make it rhythmical and musical. And we're just going to go slow. Just go slow. Always go slow. Never try to do things fast. Always young people, you want to go. You always want to go fast and play fast. Well, you're not going to develop your ear if you're going a million miles an hour. You've got to go slow and listen, right? So slow. So go to that high 1, right? Then back to the 7. And once you're getting familiar with the intervals, I don't want you to say the notes. I want you to say the intervals, right? So key of C again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. So just say them. 7, 1, 7, 3, 1, 3, 1. I'm scanning now. Now I've lifted my hand completely. And what I'm going to try to do now, I'm going to go lift it right up to the next position up here. So I've started down here and I'm going to lift it up. So now we're training our hand to find distances. So we're starting on the C and we're just going to lift it. Now we're going to move it up to the right one. Now there's no rules here. You're not trying to get things right. The biggest problem with anyone starting to learn, and all teachers I've noticed are all the same, they just do the same thing. They're trying to get you to do something right. They're trying to follow a piece of notation. Now there's notation can be useful when you're taking it and you're looking at it and writing down patterns, getting ideas from it. It's a terrible way to learn to play though. If you use it as a crutch, it's going to slow you down. So notation is good for archiving, right? But it doesn't translate very well to how we hear music. So we hear music in relative pitch movement, and that's how we want to play it. Right? That's why we learn intervals. And once we know our intervals, we can transpose them to any key. You can't transpose notation very easily, but intervals you can. But anyway, let's start here. So we're going to go and lift our hand up to this position now, which is the same position as down here. We just moved up an octave. Now that pinky you can now move from the 1 to the 5, right? You won't be able to reach up to the E. You'd have to move your hand. So, and then we're going to start lifting off notes, right? And you can do the same. And I want you to lift up and come back. Now you don't have to press every single note as in sequence. You can start now to make patterns up. Now remember, we have a constraint. You can only press notes in this chord. The reason is we're learning this chord, right? And we don't want to start pressing other white notes, although when we're creating melodies, of course you can. But at this stage, we're learning this. Now we're going to start focusing down. Now we're going to start moving our hands around and start practicing doing stuff with our hands. Now when you're learning for the first time, you're going to be very clumsy, right? And you're not going to be very rhythmical. And so this is what you've got to develop, but this is how you're going to develop it. You're going to develop it by looking at your hands, focusing on the keyboard, and forget about reading anything, right, at the moment, right? We'll learn how to do that, sure, but at the moment, we're just going to be focusing because you want to develop smooth rhythm, right? And, okay, so once you're happy with that, I want you to start moving around the keyboard. And listen to that sound of that high 7. It's beautiful. That high 7 is such a beautiful sound. So high 7s give your melody a lot of character, and a high 3, very popular in pop songs. High 7s, high 3s. Fives aren't that exciting. They're almost resolving, right? Because they're very close to, they're the smoothest interval, the 5, right? But what will give your songs more character will be the 7th and the 3rd intervals. 3 high is beautiful, and 7 high is beautiful. So high means the highest note you're playing with the melody. Remember, we're only on these notes. We're only on C, E, G, and B, right? 1, 3, 5, 7, 1, 3, 5, 7. Remember 1, 3, 5, 7. That's all we're doing, okay? Look, search for the note first, and then play it. All right, so now we're learning to do things with our fingers. Now what we're going to do, once we're happy with C, all we're going to do now is, so we've just spent all that time learning those notes. Now what we're going to do is we're just going to move our fingers over to D minor, and then we're going to focus and look at all these notes. So we're going to learn these notes. Now, remember we had the middle C, the 2 black notes, and these were the ones we were together. We particularly focus our attention on the ones together, because the other ones are quite easy to make with your hands because you're missing an interval, right? And there's the 7 there. But these are the only 2 where we have a semitone, right? The rest we have a tone here, right? 2 tones, right? Here we have a tone and a half, so that's a major 3rd, minor 3rd, major 3rd. And here we have a semitone, right? Semitone movements are very good in melodies, you know? So now we're going to look at the D minor, right? And we're going to look, well, let's have a look. Okay, it's between the C and D now is the 2 notes that are together. Okay, so we're going to look now here, D minor. So we're going to look and scan the keyboard for all the D minor notes. And we're going to do exactly the same we did with C. Roll it. First we rolled, right? And we're just getting used to moving our fingers, right? We're going to lift notes up and listen to the sound. Lift bass notes up. Now we are killing a lot of birds with one stone by learning this method and learning just the 2 chords we're learning for the very first. You've killed so many birds with one stone. You don't know how many chords you've just gone through there. So you've actually gone through a lot of slash chords. If we're on D minor, if you look at any 7th chord, right, and I start to lift notes, have a look at this. Let's just look at the right hand. We got D minor, okay? Right? D minor 7. We call that a minor 7th because it's got a minor 7th here, right? So the root, we come down a tone to get to the minor 7th, and we've got a minor 3rd. We call that a minor 7th chord. So if we lift up the bass note here, even here, right? If we lift it up and we look down, now we've got a G chord. But you weren't thinking chords, and I'm not getting you to think about chords at this stage. But you realise by doing this, you've killed 2 birds with one stone, right? You've lifted off the thumb, right? And you've got another chord. We call this chord stacking. I call it chord stacking, right? So chords can be built on top of each other to create new chords. And that's where we get the 9th, 11th, 13th chords, right? They're just stacked chords, stacking. But we're not going to be concentrating on the chord name. We're not going to be, even at this stage, on the chord itself, right? So you're just learning to play. You're just learning to get your fingers moving. But you've got, in your back of your mind now, you're starting to think about chords. You start to think about intervals, right? So this is the beginnings, the very beginnings of learning to become a composer and learning to play. Right? You're not trying to look at a sheet music and get it right. That's the worst approach you can start to learn. It is. And I did it as a kid, and as learning classical music as a kid, and then it was discouraging. I went for a few years, but on and off, and then it was just really difficult. And everyone knows, what I'm talking about. Anyone who's done sheet music, learnt from sheet music, knows exactly what I'm talking about. Because it's not natural. It's not natural the way to read sheet music the way we play. This is more natural, and we're not going to we're going to look in our hands. All right, so let's have a look now. So we've got D minor, and we're going to do the same rolling. Now, all I want you to do now that you've learnt and you scanned D minor, I want you to go back to C. Now your options have increased tenfold. Now you've got 2 chords, right, that you can muck around with. But you don't just have 2 chords. You've got multiple things. You've got multiple chords, because even with that, remember with a C, if I lift up a finger, I now have E minor. In actual fact, with just these 2 chords, just these 2 progressions from C minor 7, right, down to E minor 7, C major 7, to E minor 7, right? Just by doing that, you've actually covered every single white note. Because if you look at it, right, there's what notes? There's 7 notes, right, in the Western major scale. We've already covered 4 with C major 7. We've only got 1, 2, 3 notes left. That's it. 3 notes left. So with C minor 7 and E minor, just E minor without the 7th, we've covered every note. Now, if we've covered every note, it means in the Western major scale, right, we've covered every chord, really. We can play every chord. We're just got to learn how to do that. So don't worry about what you're doing yet in terms of the naming of the chords at this stage. Just know what you're doing. Concentrate on what you're doing. And then so we're just moving. And again, lift up a finger. And we're scanning on the D minor. So you just remember the D minor, where the D minor chord, and then the C major 7th. So we're slowly introducing the idea of our chords, right? C major 7th. And then we're going to introduce the numbers. 1, 3, right? 1, 3, 5, 7. Now, when we change to the chord, D minor 7, the numbers get reset. So our 1 now is the root note here. So the root note of D minor 7, right, is D now. Right? So that's 1. So let's just look at the notes, flow with it. Then go back to C. Go back to D. Now you'll notice with D now, the intervals is 1, minus 3, because that's a tone and a half, that's a minor third. You can go watch lesson number 2 on intervals, and to learn all the intervals and learn how to construct fifths very fast. There's a fifth. So that's a 6 and that's a 4th. There's a 5th, 6, 4th. Tone up, tone down, right? So we have a minor third, a 5th, and a 7th is what type of a 7th is it? Have a look. Well, it's a minor 7th because it's a tone down from the root. And that's how we find our 7ths. Tone down. So we're just looking at all the notes, right? Visualizing the notes. And again, even if you didn't know any of these intervals or even the note names, you can still do this. You can still do this because you got a visual memory too. You can just rely on your visual memory. But we want to put together multiple memory associations to help you learn songs. Right? You need to know. But this is a good start just to get you warmed up, you know. And so we're looking at now what? So D minor 7, right? And then we're going to go to E. Sorry, C major 7, C major 7, then D minor 7th. So we can play any note on the right hand, but we're going to play it every note in context of the chord. So if I'm on the chord C major 7th, I'm not going to be pressing D now, right? And I'm not going to be pressing anything here for now, because this is our constraint, right? Because we're just learning. But we're going to move to the point where of course, we can play any note we like. And not only that, we can come out of key eventually. But to be able to do all that smoothly, nicely, and make it sound nice, we have to start learning from this method. Build it up slowly. But these other intervals are beautiful, a second, high second. They add more character. But we're just trying to get used to the 2 characters now at the moment, which is 3 characters. So we're a high major 3rd, high minor 3rd, high major 3rd, high minor 3rd. Right? High minor 7th, high major 7th, high minor 7th, high major 7th. There's a 5th. High major 3rd, high minor 3rd. Do, 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 do. Stick to notes in the chord. Okay, so I've shown you C major 7, E minor 7th. Now I have this presentation on my website, so you can go through the rest yourself. The same principles apply, but I've chosen these pairs for a reason. So if I go back to the first one, C major 7 to E minor 7, right? The reason I chose that, if you just look at C major 7, right, and like that, and then if we look, we can see that if we just lift off C major 7, lift off the C, right, you got E minor 7th, E minor 7th, sorry, E minor there, right? Now if we put that 7th in the E minor, right, we've got that new note, which is D up here. That's E minor 7, right? So we went from C major 7th to E minor 7th. And I want you to note what changes. 3 notes stay the same. So the only change was the C becomes the D, right? C becomes the D. So if we play C here and we move it up 1, so we've got the root note of C major 7, move it up a tone, take the root note, move it up a tone, we now have E minor 7th, but we've got the 7th at the base. So this is E minor 7th. If I play it up there, see that? E minor 7th. So basically I've chosen these pairs because only one note needs to be moved. And that way you can remember. You're killing a whole lot of birds with one stone and making you remember chords much easier because you're only remembering you need to move one note. And because you know that now, you can visually see what's going on. 3 notes are the same, these 2 chords. So they're all like that, and I go through every starting note. E minor 7, right? So we're going to just look at that. E minor 7 is there, okay? G7, right, is there, okay? E minor 7, G. So again, what's the difference? We got these 2 notes, okay? So we have the F up here, high F, on G minor 7, right? So we just move this up to there. We move the root up a semitone. Take the root note, move it up a semitone, and now we've got G, we call that G7, right? Not minor 7. E minor 7, G7, right? E minor 7, G7, right? A G7th chord is a major chord with a minor 7th, right? So you notice that the pairs are chosen because only one note needs to move to get from one chord to the other. And that's a good way to memorize your chords, right, while we're learning. The same goes with G7, right? Have a look at G7, okay? We lift off, take away the G, okay? It actually goes up a tone now, right? But we lift off the G and we bring it up to there, to the A. Now we have half diminished, B half diminished. But you notice that's only, so we got the G down here to the A up there. Now bring the A down here. So we've just gone up a tone. The other two we went up a semitone, now we just go up a tone. So again, it's only one note difference. 3 notes are the same, 1 note's different. And they're all the same like that. So I've chosen that, and B diminished, D minor 7th, and when we go on to the next one, we got D minor 7th we just did to F major 7th. And then we got F major 7th to A minor 7th, and then we got A minor 7th to C major 7th, and it just goes around again. And that was the end. Because if you go back to C major 7th, you're going to go back to D minor, E minor 7, right? So you learn them all in that order, but you just learn them the same way, right? As I showed you for the C major 7th. So, all right, so the next composition video, we're going to learn about a song skeleton, and we're going to create a structure of a song. And so we have a basic direction of where we want the song to go in terms of what's that high note, the high 3, high 7. And it starts to give you the idea of the piece, and then we fill in the rest with notes, and we'll write things down. So today was improvisation. Improvisation's a huge part of composition though. So it's all under the composition series. And we're going to start to write down what we're doing from this lesson, things we create, we're going to start to write them down for the next lesson. I hope you've had fun with this composition video. Go to your keyboard, try it yourself. You can watch the video again to get the ideas, right? Probably you need to watch this a few times to actually, because there's a lot of fine details here, right? So, but when you start doing it yourself, you understand and get the idea. So anyway, that's the end for this lesson, and I'll see you in the next composition video. And so I've got a few series going on now, right? I don't think I'm going to put too many more, and I'm spreading my time between the series. I'll do a lesson video, and I'll do a composition, I'll do a song structure, and I'll just spread it like that. But I'll work on what's more popular too. So if I'm getting more people watching one certain series, I'll spend more time on that. I won't ignore the rest, because they're all important. You've got to do all of these things, right? To become an overall good musician, you're going to do them all. Anyway, that's it, and I'll see you next lesson.